Yeah, it was good. And I know one of my favorite parts, Matt, of working with you and the guys there at the Instructional Design Center, every week I got to share what I called the Psych-Up tapes.
The Psych-Up tape.
What an opportunity. Still, Dr. Jack Stark was the performance psychologist, and he hired me to do weekly Psych-Up tapes. And I have to believe that AC/DC was thinking of me when they wrote Thunderstruck. Guns N' Roses created most of their songs, but especially Welcome to the Jungle. That was for Psych-Up tapes for Husker football. And so I'd spend all night putting these together. And then it's still crazy, I got to go in the locker room, like me, camera guy. I'd see Ron Brown giving the pregame talk, and then they'd say, Lance, let's do it. Hit play, and the players are watching my Psych-Up video, which included a bunch of big hits and everything and music. And we'll see some more when you get Grant and the Peter boys going. There was a whole lot of firing up going on. So to be able to do that, and then I shared them with you.
Yeah, that was the best. I don't know if I was always working on Fridays, but I always made sure I came around the design center on Friday because, I'd be sitting at the desk, I'd be doing something, all of a sudden it'd be like, psst, psst, honky, come here. And I'd come over there and there's this video that was just freshly produced. And I know 24 hours or less than 24 hours later, that's going to be shown to the team the second right before they get out onto the tunnel walk. And that last Psych-Up, that last moment, that's that, psychology that, Coach Osborne and obviously Dr. Jack Stark, as you mentioned, that they were so good at was how do you get your teams to perform at their peak? And some of that was that strength and conditioning we talked about earlier. Some of that's the nutrition that we talk about. And sometimes it's just about getting guys a little bit insane because that's what it takes to play this game. You're going to run head first, straight, well, not head first, hopefully, but you're going to run as fast as you can and as hard as you can into people. You got to be a little loony. And I think these Psych-Up tapes help to get them. I'm going to show I got a couple of them. You can get these off of YouTube here. So I'll show them here. But here's one from Mark Gilman, one of the captains on, 94 and a great leader there, tight end from Montana. And, here's a good one.
Think about all the work we put in. Think about this past month, all the hard work. Think about the 2-a-day practices in the heat. Think about all the adversity that we faced, people knocking us and talking bad about us and stuff like that. I mean, that got kind of old. Today, we're going to put an end to all that crap. We're going to win the national championship.
We're going to win the national championship. I mean, put yourself in the shoes of sitting in that locker room, where Coach Osborne later in the day is going to give the prophetic halftime speech, put your arms back, guys, nobody be a banty rooster, all that kind of stuff. And, if you just do that, they're going to get a 15-yard penalty at time that's going to kill them. Right before they went out of that locker room before the game, they're watching that. I mean, that's got to be, and I think from your perspective as a fan, you're on the fan forum here, to think that you played a role in the team's performance that night. And you absolutely did. I mean, feel pretty good.
We were 60-3, but who's counting? And I'm sure I had at least this much to do with it. Mm-hmm. But that was a cool thing, Matt. Like that, I talked to Mark Gilman. We recorded that on a Tuesday after practice. Those guys, they had to get into that mindset, that Saturday mindset on Tuesday. So I had time to edit it all together. So it was a fantastic, opportunity to get into these guys' heads. And, when those guys are getting all fired up and everything, it's like, oh my gosh, I get to work into the night, putting these things together. And so, yeah, there was a lot of psychology that went along with it. And I was so darn fortunate to be a part of it.
How about when you got to talk with a Nebraska guy like Phil Ellis here from Grand Island?
I love you guys. I'd give my right nut for you. And I know you guys would give your right nut for me. And that's the attitude we got to go into this game. We got to sell our bodies. We got to sell our souls to win this game for ourselves, for Coach Osborne, for Nebraska.
Man.
It was interesting because Grant and Jason and Christian would set that bar so high because these guys would watch it week after week and they're like, okay, you better friggin' bring it, because last week you watched the Peter boys go crazy. And so just like Phil right there, you knew those guys were considering that an honor to be on the Psych-Up. And if they were going to be on it, they better get guys ready to run.
Yeah, I'd give my left nut for the red cast too. I mean, let's just call it as it is. Another Nebraskan, an Omaha kid, came here to be a quarterback and switched over to the defense, the safety. How about Tony Veland?
Well, fellas, here we are again. Same circumstances, playing for the national championship, and they're trying to count us out again. All they want to talk about is Florida. All they want to talk about is Warfield and the fun and gun passing tech. Man, forget all that stuff. I'm tired of hearing about Florida. I want to hear about some Nebraska stuff. I'm about to break us down right now. We got the best quarterback in the nation. We got a bunch of backs who can run through you or around you. We got an offensive line who has no sacks this year and led us to the rushing title once again. We got receivers who make more pancakes than Aunt Jemima and then get touchdowns on you. Now we'll break it down for the defense. For defense, we got the best defensive line in the country, shutting everything down in the trenches. Got rush ends coming around the end and tearing heads off, and then got backers and secondary who, besides making people dizzy when they come across the middle, score damn near more points than a lot of offenses. I'm telling you that all we got to do is go out here and just ball like we know we can, play just like we did the last couple of years, and it's going to be ours again, back-to-back, baby. We're going down there and take care of things, because come the second in Tempe, it's just going to be Husker Town all day, every day.
Ha! Legendary. Back to back.
And think about this. We can have all the revisionist history in the world. We can look back on 95 and go, that was the greatest team of all time. But at that moment, there's Lee Corso saying we can't compete with them on grass. There are people that had us not favored to beat Florida. And that kind of disrespect, I mean, that's what's going through Tony's mind, I'm sure, as he's talking to the team there, is, we know it now how great that team was. But at that moment, that team had to prove it. And a leader like Tony is, leading the team right there, right before they're going to go out there on the field.
Oh, and what's really cool is Tony V came to that session where we're interviewing that, and you could just see he was foaming at the mouth just a little bit. And I kind of loved the vibe. I can just watching that, I can remember, okay, it's kind of rappy. Like I'm breaking it down right here. They're doing this and that. And it's like, it brought this whole new feel. And it's like, it definitely took the Psych-Up tapes to a different level. And people did respond, and all day, every day. And that was repeated more than once because the guys were into that.
So you said foaming at the mouth. You mentioned this guy a little earlier. If there's one guy who's going to be top, hard to top at a Psych-Up tape, who would that be?
That would be Christian Peter.
A lot of people are trying to take us down. When you're up here, everybody tries to take the cheap shots at you, always knocking you down, saying things about your players, saying things about your head coach, the guy who would cut off his arm for any one of us. They're saying bad things about him. Fellas, that ain't right. It ain't gonna happen today, baby. We gotta go out there and show everybody what we can do, because we are the best team in America. Everyone else is down here. Dog shit on our feet.
I had to leave that last little piece. I had to. Lance, was there a moment as you're filming some of these, did you ever get like a little scared, a little worried?
A little bit. Yeah. And Christian Peter, that he set the standard so high. And even then, like a quarter of a century ago, I was thinking, will this ever be topped? Will anyone truly bring that level of intensity to the Psych-Up tapes? And I've never seen it. Like, that was off the charts. And frankly, we've had a bunch of great guys, obviously, play for the Huskers over the last quarter of a century, but I don't think anybody's going to argue, other than Grant and Jason, like nobody has been a leader, a fearless friggin' leader like Christian Peter. Like all of these teams through the last decade, what if they would have had a Christian Peter? I think Ndamukong Suh, he was getting there. and I wasn't around that close. I didn't know how verbal he was, but guys were scared of Christian Peter. Like, you did not want to feel his wrath. And I just pray that someday we're going to get another Christian Peter to lead the Big Red.
Yeah, the toughness for sure there. And, so as we go through that, I got to meet you, I guess it was about 97. So those film clips that we showed up to this point, I don't have any more Psych-Up tapes to show, but those were a little bit before my time meeting you. Now, when I met you in 97, at that point, we're talking about Grant Wistrom, Jason Peters senior year. So I got to see some of those. I remember very specifically, it must have been before the Tennessee game, and that we wore the red, and Grant holding the jersey and saying, hey fellas, we've never lost wearing these shirts. We've never lost wearing a red jersey because we hadn't lost at home during all those guys. They're 4 years. That's insane.
Profound, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That is good stuff. I mean, it was just like next level intensity. And these guys, it's nuts. They were like 20, 21, 22 years old, and they were grown men. It felt like, oh, good times.
So last one on the Psych-Up tapes here. I remember you telling me one. I don't know if I ever saw it, but was there one? Now maybe this is my memory just being foggy. Was there one where you guys went to like a junkyard or something, and with bats they were like hitting like an old car?
Oh yeah, it got to the point, year after year, doing a lot of similar things. They started to sound a little similar. So there was a melting pot of different minds that were kind of coming together, and it was kind of like, what can jar these guys? What do we need? So the shock value and everything. So there were some cars being destroyed, and it worked.
It worked.